Hey everybody, this is Sam from West Virginia Overtime, and I am checking in with you guys. Um, if you haven't heard or you haven't read any posts on West Virginia Overtime Twitter or West Virginia Overtime Facebook, I also think I might have put it on West Virginia Instagram. What I did, I have been saying that we are for the fans, by a fan, and so I try to listen to what you guys say and how you say it, and try to give you what you want. So the number one thing that I've been hearing about the podcast is, number one, you want them more frequent. Number two, you want them focused. And number three, you do want a mixture of not only things about West Virginia high school and middle school sports. I've been getting some feedback from people that the actual coaching podcast part that we have been doing that you're actually liking. So we made some decisions, or I made some decisions with the start of the new year. I decided that we were doing way too much on West Virginia Overtime podcast. I was doing kind of what was interesting to me. Some people had asked, for wrestling because we're friends, and they wanted me to kind of throw some wrestling in there. People were saying, hey, why don't you do some paranormal review things and all of that. So what I did, we went live on January 1st. There are now 3 separate podcasts. So if you're interested in all 3 different subjects, all you have to do is go to whatever your favorite podcast provider is, and they should be showing up there. They are already on a lot of the major ones, and we are waiting to hear back from Apple now. West Virginia Overtime, of course, was already on almost all the major ones. West Virginia Overtime the podcast will be nothing but middle school and high school sports. We are going to talk about some coaching. We're going to talk about big games that are coming up, or some topics that are going on around the nation that are or could be affecting West Virginia. Then we created Paranormal Review, and that's what you have to look it up under. It is Paranormal Review, and I decided we're going to do reviews of paranormal TV shows there. We're going to do histories of different locations, some equipment. We're going to try to get some interviews and do some things over there. And then for those of you who liked or wanted to follow the pro wrestling overviews and reviews, what we're doing is we created a wrestling overtime podcast. It is going to be reviewing WWE, AEW, NXT. We are going to cover some stuff with Wrestle Kingdom New Japan, and we will be covering some major things that may be happening in Impact Wrestling. So that's the kind of setup that we decided to do. Is there are going to be 3 distinct podcasts. You're welcome to sign up to all 3. If one out of the 3 interests you, then sign up for that one. However you want to do it. Today, what we're going to do is the first part of this. I want to talk about an issue that is kind of nationwide, and that I've been reading different articles about. I actually heard a podcast on it. I don't know, I think it's been about 2 or 3 days ago from one of my friends, and he was talking about the issue. And so I kind of want to bring it up with y'all. And then after that, some people wrote me on my personal Facebook page. I made some comments about my community's midget league system, and the feedback that I got from that from different coaches was, hey, can you help us? And so I kind of said, well, yeah, I definitely want to do that. So what I've chosen is to start with something simple yet difficult, and we're going to talk about just the basketball layup. Now, I am going to break down different sports, different activities in sports throughout the different seasons, but since it's basketball season, I just happen to choose layups. So that's kind of what this podcast is going to be about. So let's talk about the national issue first. Like I said, I've been reading articles about this, for a year or so. Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, even some Major League Baseball players have weighed in on this about kids playing too many games without practices. And I have posted some articles on West Virginia Overtime, especially the Facebook part of West Virginia Overtime. And I haven't really gave my views on it because I don't really know where I stand. And like I said, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, one of my friends did a podcast on it. And he is a baseball coach. And so he asked the question, I don't know why I can't get my kids to run hard every time down the first base line. He said, I've set my team in the dugout. I have told them numerous times, we always run out, full speed down the first base line. And he said he has been noticing for probably a good year or two that it doesn't depend really on the hit, whether they think they're going to make it or not. He said it just kind of depends on how they're feeling that day or what's going on that day, that a lot of them are just not hustling as hard as they used to. He's had the same group of kids, for the last couple years, and he said he's just seen progressively, he said they're not even going half speed, they're going more than half speed, but not as fast as he knows they can go, and they're just not hustling. And he's really went in and explained, hey, the simple, easy play that you think you hit a ball to third base and they're going to throw you out. Well, you never know when they're going to flub that up or they're going to overthrow first base and throw it into the first base dugout or over the fence or whatever. You need to be hustling on every play. So, he kind of went into that, and he interviewed some coaching friends of his about this topic and everything. One of the coaches said something that piqued my interest, I guess. He said what he thought was happening was a lot of his little leaguers and some senior leaguers were not running hard down first base. Maybe a ball hit in the gap between center and right. They weren't going after it as hard. He said, a year or two ago, I would have had my center fielder diving to try to catch the ball with the right fielder, going behind and backing up in case they didn't catch it. And he said, I don't really see that sometimes. Well, he was asked, well, what exactly do you think that is? And he kind of hit me out of the blue. I wasn't expecting it, but like I said, it piqued my interest. He said, I think they're playing too many games on the weekend. And I think they're playing too many meaningless games. And I thought, I don't know that I understand that. So, they asked him a couple follow-up questions, and he was ready for it. And he said, here, when my players go, he's a middle school baseball coach. He said, when they're in travel ball, or they're, playing AAU, or they're traveling, doing tournament teams, or whatever, he said a lot of times they practice once, maybe twice during the week. He said, and then they're going to tournaments all over. They may be going to Ohio, they may be going to South Carolina, they may be going to Virginia, Pennsylvania, wherever. And he said, in order to make that worth their while, as far as money and time and everything, he said the coach, who he knows of the travel team, tries to get them to play at least 4 games. And, if they're winning, then they get to stay for day 2. And he said he has known that his kids have played anywhere from 6 to 10 games in a weekend. And he said, while none of his baseball players, middle school baseball players, are, brain surgeons, they're not geniuses, he said it doesn't take long for them to figure out, when the coach is saying, hey, we've got 3 games today. He said it doesn't take long for them to figure out, if I go all out, completely focused, I hustle my butt off, I'm diving in the outfield, I'm, trying to break up double plays at second base, I am drag bunting and trying to run it out on first base, I'm giving it my all in that very first game. He said the kids realize, hey, I get tired during the second game. And then in the third game, I'm even more tired. And he said, he's heard his middle school baseball players talking about, hey, we're getting ready to play this number 1 team in this tournament, and there might be somebody there that's watching. And he said, my kids don't want to be tired. He said they want to be able to kind of give a consistent effort. And he said, so what I think is happening is, instead of going all out in that first game, instead of hustling, instead of, diving for balls, instead of, the catcher running down the line and backing up the throws at first base or whatever, he said they're halfway doing it to conserve energy because they've got 2 more games coming. And he said, they get in the second game, it may be in the middle of the day or the hottest part of the day, and he said they're still conserving energy because they know, hey, we've got one more game in tournament poll play, or we're guaranteed one more game, or whatever. And he said, in order for them not to be taken out, in order for the coach not to be concerned that they're tired or questioning if they're tired, he said it doesn't take his players long to realize, hey, I've got to have energy for all 3 of these games today. So they lower their level. Instead of going all out, they don't. And he talked about how it was real hard as a middle school baseball coach. Well, they only have 1 game a day. Yes, they may play a double header, but they have 1 game, and the game may be Tuesday. Well, they may not play again until Thursday. So not only are they only playing 1 game on Tuesday, they have a practice day on Wednesday, and he said, we're not playing again until Thursday. And he said, but my kids are used to conserving energy. He said they're used to basically giving not full effort. And he said, so I really, in the beginning part of our middle school season, have to try to break that habit and say, you have to go all out all the time. And he said that he's literally sat them down and showed them the schedule. Hey, this isn't travel ball. And we have a so-called rest, but it's a practice day tomorrow. So I need everything you've got. I need you busting your butt down the first base line. I need, if you think you can dive and catch that ball, I need you doing that. I need you breaking up that double play at second base. And that was, I don't know that it was shocking to me, but it just hit me weird. Because, as I was growing up, we did have AAU basketball, and I did play it some. We did not travel nearly as much as what I'm hearing some of the kids nowadays do. But, I do know what it's like to play several games in one day. And you do get tired, and you do almost kind of have to conserve energy. So what he was saying was making sense. So another coach come on and talked, and then the first coach came back on, and he said, I want to bring up another topic. And this one, I think, floored me, because I had never heard it. And so I'm kind of throwing it out there to you guys. And you can hit me up on our Twitter page. It's Overtime WV. You can hit me up on our Instagram or our Facebook pages of West Virginia Overtime, or we're WVOvertime@gmail.com. Let me know what you think about this, because like I said, this part kind of floored me. He said travel ball in baseball is kind of getting his kids to feel like they're resetting every weekend. And at first I really didn't understand that, so he kind of went into greater detail and talked about how every weekend is a tournament. And they can go there, and if they're the best team, or if, they have a good couple days, then they win that championship. and a lot of them get trophies or rings or whatever, and then they move to the next weekend, and the next weekend is a reset. It's a new tournament, and if they don't do well, say they lose every game, okay, they don't get rewarded. There's no rings, there's no trophies, but that doesn't necessarily matter because the next weekend is a reset. Well, when you think about it, that's not what middle school and high school sports is about. Middle school and high school sports is about a season. And you really don't have a reset. If you play 4 games in a row, awesome, and you're beating your opponents by 40 in basketball, and then you drop 2 games, and you've got to come back now for game 7 of your season, you're 4-2, there's no reset. They're not gathering trophies. They're not getting rewarded. And by losing 2 games, there's no reset on there either, because those are 2 conference games that have put them lower in the standings. And he made the point that he's not sure that his kids understand the long haul and the journey and the process. And there's a saying that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And I believe that when we won the state championship in '97, looking back on that, I do remember the state tournament. I remember the state championship game. I remember my feelings. I remember that destination. But I'll tell you what, my most special memories of that season, the things when I think back, are the struggles that we went through on that journey. Us losing, us having to come back, the early morning practices, the before game shoot-arounds, sitting and talking to kids at the bleachers, and having these little bonding moments and stuff. And it was about the journey. The season mattered. And I'm wondering, after hearing him talk and him putting this in my head, are we conditioning kids to think that seasons don't matter? That the journey, the 15-game schedule that we have, or the 20-game schedule we have, or the 30-game schedule we have, does that matter? Because they're not getting rewarded or punished, or there's no consequences or whatever. They're not getting to reset. It is a continuous journey. And then, you either win the conference championship or you don't. You either win, what's going on. And then you reset and you play maybe your conference tournament or some kind of playoff thing. And then you reset again for maybe sectionals or regionals if you're in high school, or going to the states. But there's 3 distinct levels, there's 3 distinct areas. And are we getting kids just to focus on a weekend instead of focusing on a whole entire season, a 20-game season, where there aren't resets, and where every game in that 20 season is important? And if you get on a losing streak, there's no reset next weekend. It may cost you the conference championship right then and there in the middle of your season. And so I've kind of been thinking about that. are we doing our kids a disservice by not making a season, by not making it worthwhile? Is the state championship in baseball or volleyball or softball and baseball, because those are the big travel sports, the big AAU sports, are those starting not to mean anything? Is winning the states in high school is winning the state softball championship still a big deal in high school? Or would kids rather go play on a travel team and maybe earn 12 trophies in the same amount of time? And then I look at the articles and the interviews that you see from Kobe Bryant and LeBron James and others who have said that they don't particularly like the AAU system. They don't particularly like the travel ball system because there's not enough practice time. I read the article, or one of the articles that LeBron contributed to, and he said his son Bronny, there are times that he shows up at basketball tournaments for the weekend and he doesn't truly know who is going to be on his team until he walks into the hotel on Friday night. And he said, a lot of times they set up, a team dinner and then they go practice Friday night. And that's the first time he's ever practiced with this team. And then he may play 4 or 6 games on Saturday, and then he may play another 4 on Sunday. And is that really getting him better? LeBron made a special point to say, yes, games are fun. Games are especially fun when you win. But are you getting better playing games all the time? You need to practice. You need to practice with your team. You need to know your team. That's one of the things that Kobe said in one of the articles I read, was your teammates matter, especially when you're in middle school and high school. And so if you're one of these kids that are playing on different teams every weekend, or you're only seeing your team on the weekend because you guys live in different states or different parts of the state, then are you really becoming a team? Are you forming long-lasting bonds? Will you give up something for your team? And I think back to my own experiences and my teammates. And, on my softball team, my sophomore and junior year, I probably would have ran through our dugout wall for a lot of my teammates. I had known them since I was 9 years old, and we were very close friends in school. We hung out in school. We practiced together. We played together. I felt this connection, this bond with them. And yes, I was diving for balls, not only because I wanted to make a spectacular play, but I didn't want to let my friends down. I didn't want to let my teammates down. I didn't want to let my coaches down. The coaches that I had looked up to since I was 9. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I had looked up to, one of my coaches since I was 9 years old. And I didn't want to let my school down. My school meant something to me. Fighting for my school, representing my school, meant something to me. It meant that I was part of a community and that I was playing for them. And so by having travel ball in AAU, are they really getting better? Are they missing out on practices? Should they be practicing more and playing less games? Are they picking up bad habits? Are they picking up me first habits? I don't know these people, so why shouldn't I go out and try to hit the home run instead of drag bunting down third base to score someone else? Why shouldn't I go to the basketball game and try to score 21 points? Why should I be throwing the ball to someone else and letting them score 21 points? So, I kind of don't know where I stand with this. I know that only 2% of all high school athletes go on to play in college. So part of me thinks maybe the only elite players need to be traveling to get seen by the college coaches, because that's the college coaches' argument is we can only go to these big tournaments and see these kids in one place, and it cuts down our travel time. It cuts down the time away from our family. But then I think, is that what's best for our kids? And should kids in middle school be playing on a statewide team that they see, 4 times a month? Or should they be playing for their hometown team of kids that they go to school with and kids that they're friends with and that they hang out with? So I kind of go back and forth, and I'm not real sure where I stand. I know that a lot of people automatically don't like AAU ball or travel ball or whatever you want it, club ball, because they don't feel like they get the best coaching. Well, back in my day, in the old days, I agreed with that. My AAU coaches in basketball taught me a lot, but they didn't have as big of an effect on me as what maybe my high school boys basketball coach had on me. I learned way more from him than I did any AAU coach. So I don't know. I know around here in West Virginia, a lot of the AAU coaches are dads. And I know that there are some dads that they played in high school. They played in college. There's some AAU coaches that played in the pros. And they know what they're doing, and they know what they're teaching, and kids are getting better under them. But then I know that there's some AAU coaches that are dads that just took it to be taken in. And then you see and hear about the AAU coaches that are just doing it for the money, where, that's their main job. There is a Sports Illustrated article out where they have hired, I believe there's 7 employees now, at an Indiana complex out. It's outside of Indianapolis. They created a sports complex out there, and they have numerous baseball, volleyball, basketball tournaments out there, and they're trying to get it going year round. But they actually have full-time employees some of which are making six figures, that all they do is set up these different tournaments and make sure that they are ran appropriately, that, there's enough officials, there's enough referees, that, they have the hotels where the kids are staying and all of that, that it is turning into a business. And so, like I said, I really, really don't know where I stand with this. So, I don't know. I'm interested in hearing you guys' thoughts. What do you guys think about travel ball, club ball, AAU ball? It's called different things in different sports. Is it great for them? Is it not? Is it great that they get to meet kids from other areas and other parts of the state, or even other states? Is it great that they get to work with different coaches, some of which who are awesome coaches, some of which who are not? Is it great that they get to travel up and down the East Coast or the Midwest? Is it great and fabulous that they get to see different areas? Do you like the idea that they're playing more games than they're practicing? Does it worry you? I really want to hear from you guys on this topic. What do you truly think about this? Like I said, I'm going to post this on Twitter. I'm going to post this on our Facebook page. Let me know what you're thinking. You can always write me at wvovertime@gmail.com. And just to kind of make this short and sweet, because we're running about 35 minutes here, I'm not going to do the layup podcast. I'm going to make it a separate podcast because I want to make this short enough that you can get it done on a drive. But kind of let me know what you think and how you feel on, is it making them tired? Is this causing them to conserve energy and not give their all in, middle school games or high school games? Is this causing them not to want to play long seasons? Is this making the state championship more worth it? Or is it making it less worth it because they're getting a trophy every weekend, or they at least have the opportunity to get a trophy or a ring every weekend? Let me know what you think. I will come back with the basketball layup podcast maybe tomorrow or the next day, just a little later in the week. But I truly want to know your thoughts and feelings on this. So I will talk to you soon, and I look forward to hearing you guys' arguments. See you later.